So Marriage Story was directed by Noah Baumbach and stars Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson as a married couple going through the process of getting divorced and the ugliness that brings. And guys, everyone is saying this about the movie, so I'm not going to expound on it too much, but the acting is just astonishing. Both Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver give knockout performances in a year filled with knockout performances. Like, I really have no memory of a year this stuffed with amazing performances like we've seen. But we also get some great work out of the supporting cast, specifically Laura Dern, who is just so vicious. And then we've got some faces that I haven't seen in a while in Julie Haggerty, Wallace Shawn, and Ray Liotta. Oh, and Alan Alda, who all did really good jobs in their respective roles. But what really makes this movie so great is the subtlety throughout, especially in its dialogue. This is not a divorce movie that is just filled with scenes of the couple endlessly fighting. In fact, the film even opens with monologues from each of the characters describing what they love about their partner. These are three-dimensional characters facing a very real and fleshed out struggle. So there are certain things said throughout the entire movie that if you aren't fully paying attention to, you won't really enjoy this movie. Its backbone is built on subtlety. The key to this couple's success in this relationship is communication, and they do not have that key. In almost every scene featuring these two characters, there are little things that one of them might say that the audience may pick up on and be like, oh, the other character isn't going to like that, or that's going to set them off due to what the audience has seen from the other character. I'm sorry if that was a little confusing, I'll explain. So the audience gets to spend some time alone with both Charlie and Nicole, where each of them describe how they feel about each other and the situation. So in one scene, Nicole spills her guts and tells how she felt controlled by Charlie during their marriage. In a later scene, Charlie makes a small comment about how he would prefer Nicole's hair a certain way, and this sets Nicole over the edge even more. Charlie doesn't know why this does that, but the audience does. And that's just one very simple example that I could describe to someone who's never seen the movie. It gets so much more complex from there. And it was just so fascinating to see, as an outside perspective, the degradation of a marriage and how it can come to that place specifically. The audience learns more and more about each of their feelings towards the situation, and it just gets so very frustrating to watch each of them make such stupid moves. It makes you just want to step in the screen and give each of them a shake and just tell them to communicate with each other. And that's what I think this film is really about, is communication. Aside from that opening monologue from each of the characters, the opening scene of the movie is Nicole choosing not to communicate during counseling. She just gets mad and walks out of the session while Charlie is sitting there trying to participate and communicate with her. And it just escalates from there. Apparently the couple has chosen to not use lawyers in this process, and then out of nowhere, Nicole just decides to get a disgusting, vicious lawyer. After this, Charlie is forced to get a lawyer or he'll lose custody of his son. The lawyers then start communicating for the couples, and it just gets worse and worse from there. If they would have just communicated from the beginning, all of these problems could have been avoided and their relationship probably could have been saved. This film really does show how bringing lawyers into something so sacred as marriage can really screw things up and take things out of perspective. This movie can serve as a warning to couples to communicate so that each person can return to that mindset when the relationship first began, to be selfless, so that things don't escalate to the level of Nicole and Charlie's marriage, because it is so avoidable. So guys, I want to talk about one scene in particular that was just so cringy in this movie. I had to force myself to keep watching. It was difficult. So there's one scene where Charlie is being monitored on how he parents his son Charlie, and this will determine certain custody rights. And there are certain little things that happen and you're just like, oh no, why would you do that? Why would you say that? Just stop right there. And it just gets worse and worse. And I'm not saying this is cringe in a bad way. This made me feel so uncomfortable. And that was what it set out to do. It made me squirm. And any movie that can do that is worthy of some kind of praise. On another level, I appreciated this scene because it demonstrated how the court systems can misconstrue certain information, and due to just very tiny things, a parent could lose all rights to their own child. And in line with the rest of the film, this scene was built up with so much subtlety throughout. Before this, Charlie had been flying to LA from New York back and forth, still trying to work his full-time job in New York while dealing with his lawyers in LA, which is where Nicole had moved and stationed herself with their son. And Nicole lives there. She automatically has the advantage over Charlie. She doesn't have to be flying back and forth every week, trying to deal with work in another city. And Charlie really tries to present himself as a good parent, and I think he was a good parent. It's just that Nicole had such an advantage over him already that there's no way the court was going to side with him. And speaking of siding with one person over the other, I've read some reviews of this movie that have praised it for not presenting one person in the relationship more so than the other. They were each presented equally and their sides were pretty split down the middle. And I agree with this statement to an extent. I can usually see kind of where Nicole is coming from, but I gotta say I sided with Charlie the vast majority of the time. Nicole just made so many selfish, stupid choices that it made it really hard for me to side with her. I was pretty much rooting for Charlie the whole way through. He was trying so hard to make things work even when all the odds were stacked against him. But I would like to hear your guys' thoughts. Am I biased? Were they equally at fault, or do you guys see one side over the other? And one more thing I want to talk about. At the end of the film, both Charlie and Nicole get their own scene where they sing a song in front of an audience. And each scene I felt was kind of out of place and unnecessary. And I would have definitely either cut those scenes or given them a little bit more context. I was just confused why we were watching them sing, and it was really awkward feeling. But overall, a really good look at the ugliness that divorce can bring and how everyone should avoid that at all costs, and how it is important to communicate with your significant other, and a good look at how messed up our court systems are today. And I'm gonna give this movie a 9 out of 10. Let me know what you guys thought though. Like I said, am I biased? Let me know in the comments below on who you sided with. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for my next review.